morning, everybody. This is Joe from the Middle Ground Mike. Hope this catches everybody doing well. Let's talk about one of the bigger topics of today, the floods in Texas. They are now saying as of a little while ago, 78 are dead. They've rescued over 800. Apparently, 15 inches of rain fell down in a span about 85 miles northwest of San Antonio. According to the director of the Department of Public Safety down in Texas, they are saying that the death toll will rise tomorrow, which is a terrible thing. But I know the president is planning on doing some things to try and help them. He did issue a disaster declaration. So that's a good thing. So let's see what kind of resources with the restructured system that they've kind of restructured already. So let's see how that goes, because people of Texas are definitely going to need it. What a tragedy. I know there was a group of campers, I believe, or something of that nature, where a gentleman pretty much sacrificed himself to save everybody else there. So that was, it's just tragic. It's just not right for anybody involved to have to go through that. It's just sad. Nobody should, for what I am reading is that they are going to be looking into the weather reporting for that. I'm not sure what that means. We shall see what that means, because that could literally mean anything. I wouldn't think that a weather report would ever purposely sabotage something. Like I said, the questions are starting to arise over the federal response cuts, because when something like this happens, right, if it's not perfect, you cut the budget, it's the first thing that's going to hit you. So when you do cut the budget, it's a lot bit more complicated than just cutting the budget. You have to actually have a plan in place to make it happen. And when they're talking about they need to search for more survivors, but apparently there's more flooding on the way. Apparently the president is planning on going down there to view them. Not to view them, but to view the disaster, I shall say. So it's, I guess the best way to put it is just how the governor of Texas did. It was nothing short of horrific to see what was happening to these young children and everybody. It's terrible, and I feel very, very, very bad for those people, because who literally wants to go through that? That's just rough. What do you do? There's witnesses recalls, trees, RVs swept down the river. Apparently the Cowboys are donating $500,000 to help with Texas flooding. I know the Houston Texans did the same as well. So we'll move on to another item. Trump calls Elon Musk's formation of a new party ridiculous. He's essentially just calling it a train wreck. Trump's new party is going to be called the America Party. I don't know where we will go with that. I don't really see a ton of details about it, but it's clear that Trump didn't agree with Musk on the need for another political party. I get where Musk is coming from. This bill is going to add $2 trillion to the deficit, or to the debt, I should say. So yeah, it is a terrible thing when it comes down to that. It's just, it further breaks away if, Trump calls it ridiculous, criticizing Musk's pick for NASA, because he's kind of left wing. But, also to note in this is that, and part of the big, beautiful bill, they're getting rid of a lot of the EV subsidies. So yeah, Musk has a financial interest in this bill. And now that cutting subsidies out is hitting him, now all of a sudden he doesn't want to cut those subsidies anymore. So, he's just as guilty. It's very sad. Very, very sad. Apparently the Air Force is temporarily suspending, a rocket project on Pacific. Wherever that goes, Tesla sales are falling. Trump is escalating the feud. I think it might be better for Elon Musk if he just kind of rides off into the sunset on this one and calls it a day. There's really nothing to be gained from it anymore. Moving on, let's go on something else. First indirect Hamas Israel ceasefire talks ended inconclusively. But it didn't go badly. So that's progress. Let's hope that these folks can find some kind of middle ground, like I say on my podcast, middle ground, right, where they can do this. Netanyahu says he believes Trump can seal ceasefire deal, but, Netanyahu's, I guess you want to call it a warmonger, but he does need Trump to make it happen, but he's also got to be willing to accept the terms, even if they're not perfect the way he wants them. You have to. It can't be, this, and then the next day, because somebody in Gaza looks the wrong way, we decide we're going to break the ceasefire. No, it can't be that. You got to toe the line on that. Apparently, Israel as 6 hours ago, they planned to issue 54,000 call notices to ultra-Orthodox students. But a ceasefire is coming? I don't know. Israel's now attacked some Yemeni ports and a power plant. We have to find a way to completely de-escalate this. Israel's fencing off towns in the West Bank. One massive trauma war is what Gaza's turning into. It's terrible. Like, I get why Israel had to do what it had to do in the beginning. I'm not going to argue that. It's a horrific attack on them, but now you proved your point. It's time to go home. You've proved your point with them. Kind of moving on a little bit. Zelensky for the Ukraine war says the latest phone call of Trump was his most productive yet. So, they are making some progress there. Putin seems to be open to it, but I don't trust what Putin says in that aspect. Let's see how it balances out. That drone attack on Kiev the other day was crazy. The Patriot air defense did help, but that was still pretty big. I was watching some of the videos on it. Man, that was a little intense. Apparently, Tucker Carlson is saying he will be airing his interview with the president of Iran. I had no idea. President Masood, I can't pronounce his last name, so I won't even try. But apparently it's going to air in the next day or two, so let's check that out. I'll even do a review on my podcast of it. Let's see what they have to say, because Lord knows it's probably different than what we're having to hear. That's definitely pretty interesting. I had not realized that he planned on doing that, so that is a great thing. We got a couple good interviews coming up this week. We got the one with Dr. Glenn Toby. Like I said, he's done a lot of work with other stuff, so that one's going to be pretty cool. I'm kind of looking forward to it. We got one coming up at the end of the week with he's an independent music producer, and his name's Alan, so that one's going to be even better. I'm not even better until, but that one's going to be a great interview too. I learned a lot about just some basics of the independent music scene. I think everybody here really enjoy it. So, look forward to that material coming this week. And then don't forget, Tuesday, Thursday, and Saturday are going to be your quick hit news. So this is the Monday morning podcast. I hope this catches everybody doing well for the rest of the week. Hope you all have a good week.